We have one more person. Okay. So, would like to start by saying thanks to everyone who is currently here. I hope you get a lot of information out of this, and obviously it's a Q&A, so we'll have questions at the end. The first update that I want to talk about, which I think that everyone's going to find the most obviously um, important, at least to players as a problem, is the displaying of how many rules there are. Despite how many of them have justifications, there is just a lot of information to have, especially as a new player. I think our newest player, who is currently here, is Mischief, and they will probably understand, uh, though everyone does. So the first thing we want to address is that we are going to be updating the way that rules are displayed in the server. The way by which we're going to do that is mainly once you get in, you're going to have a lookup command, much like Avray has. Avray has a lookup command for D&D rules. We plan to have a similar command for looking up our rules. They're going to be categorized in certain ways, and they'll be easy to make it so that you can look up a command or look up a rule while playing. The ups of this are that you won't have to come into questions when you're in a denk or a horde or anything like that, or even when you just want to know something about like riding your horse or riding your mount. You won't have to come and ask us. You can look for clarification in the rules, maybe by looking up mounts, like slash rules mounts, something like that. That's going to be the easiest way for you to get information out of our server, other than just straight up going to the rules channel, which still will exist. Other than that, we're gonna have a new onboarding process for newer players. It's less, it's less for you guys because you are already players, already in the server, for instance. And after that, we also plan to shrink the initial amount of rules that you're able to see upon entering the server, and only say what you need to see. A lot of the rules that you are currently bombarded with when you enter the server are just not applicable to new players, and they don't really need to see those things. And so we plan to like truncate the rules to where they will still include what you need to see, but not what you don't need to see when you're starting out making a character. A lot better of a representation of that is the getting started channel. You need to know basically all of that information up until you start adventuring. I don't think there is a thing in there that isn't necessary for you to know. Whereas, the mounted rules, or let's say the helpful stuff rules on buying houses, not really necessary for you to see when you start. And other than that, we for the specific rule lookup command, um, I will refer to either Whack or Kravik on like a more detailed version of how that's going to work, unless they don't want to reveal any of that right now.
I mean, I'll jump in. Wasn't necessarily prepared on the topic. That said, Fan's right. Like the due to some of the limitations and things, and building from the beginning, we're stuck with kind of these channels and lists of tons of information, no matter how simple we want everything to be. So really, what we're going to do is enhance it, make its own documentation or wiki. Now, it won't be like a web page or anything that you can go to outside of the bot, but it should kind of put all the information you need at the palm of your hands, and also remove a bunch of the stuff that kind of overwhelms people at entry. I'm not sure I have much to elaborate in regards to exactly the command you're going to use, because we haven't fully written it yet. But we're going to make it as easy as possible. We're going to try to lump things. I'm sure we won't nail it the first time, and we'll probably look for some feedback on ways and how we could organize some things better, that kind of stuff. But the goal is to make that information accessible to you in any channel instead of having to move around channels. It's moving around channels is a pain point for us. It's a pain point for you guys. and we're trying to do everything we can to obviate it. Outside of maybe like a specific question regarding this in the chat or something, maybe uh, I don't really have anything else to add
Mhm.
personally. Very excited though.
Yeah, it's a very big move forward, and we planned it for a long time. I think honestly, it might be a year at this point, because it's a big undertaking to log all the rules and categorize them. But yeah, other than that, I'm pretty sure that the only thing I would also like to allude to is the fact that we would like to show you what the quest system is going to do later on in this Q&A, because we do have, as DJ has alluded to before, we have a working version of them right now. At this point in our progress, the only thing left to do is input all of the information. Writing, which is, as Virgil has alluded to, his main undertaking now. Obviously, thanks to Kravik and Whack for the system that he is now writing in. But having said that, I do want to toss it over to Kravik to talk about some of the new upcoming features that will be implemented both later on in the year and also more recently. We can't hear you, by the way, Kravik.
Yeah, so I say I think the microphone's broken, isn't it?
Oh no.
And he's gone.
Some technical difficulties.
Can you hear me now?
Ah, there he is.
Yeah, we got you now.
All right.
Yeah, we got him now. I guess he's
as
trapped.
I was saying, I'll start with the quest system because that's probably what most people also want to hear about. And I'll start with saying that sadly that's not among the things we released today. It's technically ready to go, but we do want the first launch to be with a certain number of quests. So basically enough content that makes it a good release to give you guys several things to do with the quest system instead of just a handful of quests. So some of the things that we focus on making first is a few tutorial quests, specifically for new players, of course. But that's something that we'll also be displaying today, one of the tutorials, to give you an idea of how the quest will look like, and just to give a good introduction to the server, so everyone gets to experience it through the bot. Another type of quest that we will focus on is the entry for guilds. That will be automated then, so we won't have to do a special review process first, because we know how the things were done, because you have to follow the quest bot, which will make that part easier as well. And another part, which is the counter quests, which will tie into, of course, some of the other things we have. And that's something we want to automate first. And then, of course, we can add a bunch of other filler things that give some more variety to the quest that you can choose. Yeah, so that's the main focus. And the quests will be different kinds of things that you can do. There will be quests like you have now for the guilds, but you can also get some more random quests because the bot will actually see a party maybe walking down the streets or in a certain channel and actually trigger a quest itself. So you don't always have to select it. Sometimes it just crosses your path and decides you can start a quest with it now. So that can be a random thing that you can do. You can still abort that quest if you want to, but it'll add some dynamic feel to the world. So you get random things happening. So yeah, that's something, the quest we will show later in this presentation. Yeah, and how they will differ from the current system is basically because we handle it through the bot, you don't have to use the different side notes of how the quests look like, because the bot will basically guide you through it. You get embeds, prompts that you will see, which will ask for roles, or perhaps print an encounter, or give you some choices to go through. and based on those choices, you will get different quests or quest paths, I guess, because that's something we can do now. The current quests are pretty basic in the sense that they're not that long. We basically have 3 or 4 things you can do in a quest before it's complete. And with the new system, we can add much more to that. We can add a much longer quest if you want, but we can also add basically a starting section that's the same for everyone, but based on the choices that you make there, you can have a completely different quest than if you choose something else. So that's a way to give quests a more dynamic feel as well, and keep them a bit more exciting to do them again.
Not as repetitive as they currently are.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so basically player choices matter. And we can also use things like counter quest to add the results automatically, which will save us some time as well and give progress sooner than currently.
I believe it's also the same with resources, right?
Yeah, all the things you will be getting as rewards, you will be automatically given just like all the other parts, which kind of completes that circle, because I think we have everything automated then in terms of rewards, so you don't really have to be adding your own gold or rep or items
You
anymore.
never have to ping me again.
Yeah, that as well. So yeah, that's something that we've been wanting to do a long time, so it makes it easier for everything to be handled through the bot, so you don't have to do that stuff yourself or divide loot. Yeah, then I will move to other features that we will release today, which is the trade system updates. Something that we changed in the new trade rules is the restrictions. They're much more lenient. Currently, there's restrictions on that you have to offer something of similar value within a certain range, and we want to remove most of that restriction, which means you can basically trade anything for 1 gold piece, for example. So you do have to trade something. It's not completely free, but it's it opens up a lot more. There is one restriction that we added though, is that it's still based on rarity of items, based on character level, and this is to prevent certain abuse in gifting. Which means a player that's receiving an item has to be a certain level for it. For example, if a level 3 player finds a rare item, according to our rules, they can't use it yet, but it will allow him to trade that item. But it has to trade it to someone that's able to receive it, which is, I think, level 8. So anyone can trade and give away that item to a player that's valid to be receiving that item. So it opens up trading to give anything for anything basically, but it kind of prevents gifting things to low-level players to avoid abuse in that sense. So we will monitor trades. So we still have to use in-character reasons to do it. You can't just give a new player welcome a gift of a lot of rare items. But most of the other things is possible now. And this is also mostly done to encourage things for crafting. Now you can give crafting components or stuff for the crafter without receiving anything in return yet. And after they've completed that item, they can gift it to you back or basically trade it for an additional money or something. So that should enable much more for trades.
It'll basically include like player-like businesses if you really wanted to get into that. But we have a plan for those.
No, well, it's not player. It's different.
Yeah,
it's trade. We'll get the player business things.
we will.
Yeah, another thing we will release is different hordes. Because we had the DM run quests that were completed successfully, and we had a bunch of counter quests. We have made updates to hordes, and we will be allowing progress to be made further into Lunaris. Lunaris is, of course, a stronghold that we first have to deal with before being able to reach that region. And for that reason, we've now added a horde in the Black Marsh, which will be a horde that has the level 9 minimum level. So if you are lower level, you can still participate in that horde, but you will be treated as someone of level 9. So it would be more dangerous if you're lower level, but you can still participate. And it will also use a minimum of 6 players, so it uses the average level if it needs to fill additional slots. But that's a way for now to get hordes in the Black Marsh, which will try and get some progress towards opening up Lunaris. So that's a new special horde that we made. And we also updated the sewers, because the sewers is currently the horde, and we wanted to make that a bit more accessible. And we've reduced that level to level 6 now. It works similar than it did before, but we've reduced it to level 6 to make it easier to get to for newer players. You can reach it sooner than currently. So that opens up a new different play style for lower level players.
I believe it also means that like new monsters might roll depending because the level range.
Yes, so as everything, we scale encounters to party levels. So if you're level 6 party, you will get different kind of monsters in the sewers. As for the horde in the Black Marsh, those will be typed as the kind of creatures that are now defending the
Tomb of Hours.
Lunaris crossing point. Yeah.
Yep, the Western Offensive is officially underway.
You can
Is
now
the
join the
long and
Western
short of
Front.
Yes, join the Western Front. Beyond the war asset gains that you normally get through quests and whatnot, definitely hit up that horde. That will be, doing those horde fights and progressing through that system will also be a metric by which you all can start to take back Lunaris faster. So have at it. Although come prepared because it is a war front. So
And you are passing every wild channel there.
Yes, so it's difficult, more difficult to reach. Well, I mean, the sewers still had some encounter channels as well, but it's a little different.
Yeah, but not 4 of them.
reach. But yeah, that's things we will release today. As for the next steps for coding, we haven't really decided what I want to make next in terms of bigger components. So I'm open to bribes, but we of course will be expanding a bit on the quests and what we can do with them as we
Dungeons
go
and
on.
stuff.
But yeah, well, the things I think I've been wanting to do is achievements.
Oh, true.
Not just for the achievement stuff, but because we can use that for a number of things, because that's how we build the world basically, to get one step at a time to interact with different systems that we have. And for achievements, reaching certain achievements could enable certain guilds to take interest in you, if I'll give that a bit of a vague description. And tied into that, a next step, as Fantessa mentioned a bit, would be player businesses. We have some ideas on how that would work in terms of how to start a small business, and needing to do things to get payment or whatever gains that business would have from it. But we can also tie it in with things like quests. A business could perhaps get quests based on a business type to get progress or certain rewards for that business. But also things like achievements. If you achieve certain things or do a certain number of business type quests, you might unlock the possibility to upgrade your business. Things like that would be ways to tie them in together. Or achievements to unlock access to more valuable quests for business or for other reasons. Stuff like that. We can all tie into that outside of course, giving a achievement thing to brag about to other players for. But yeah, I think that's most of the things I wanted to talk about.
Well, there's one more
Is there
thing,
a
unless you snuck it in
question?
while I was still out. Speaking of other mechanics that are upcoming, we have discussed an update. We're planning on a future update to the fishing downtime activity.
Yes,
In
I have
that
not
we're.
mentioned that yet.
Oh, you did mention that?
I did not yet.
Oh, okay. Okay. But yeah, we took a look at it. We're looking to in future implementations add in a bait system into it that can, help increase your chances of getting certain rarities of fish. You also being able to make, different tiered bait out of some of the fish that you catch that may be on the lower end of rarity and value. And then also the mechanic itself being updated slightly. So you'll still have your, your standard survival check to cast in and all of that. But we're looking at potentially building a system where it's a contested strength check against the fish itself as a mechanic. So basically, it's a arm wrestle contest, for lack of a better term. And whoever wins the arm wrestle, either you win it and you reel the fish in, or you fail and the fish gets away. So, and there's a couple of other little tidbits and tweaks that we're entertaining and playing around with within that system to potentially allow for other items to come into play during that contest, or even potentially this one's a bit trickier, but we've at least discussed it briefly of like the prospect of potentially being able to receive help from other players and under what context that would come into. And then expanding it as well from you can just fish anywhere there's water, differentiating different areas of fishing. That may come in like phase 3 of the fishing setup, but basically different fishing locations that have different yields or different types of fish that they pull, whether that's freshwater or saltwater, that sort of stuff. So, amongst other things, fishing will get a bit of an expansion of its own into a new mini game. So,
The one thing I'd like to just jump in on that real quick, and before I do, because I don't think we spent enough time on it. When you guys see Kravik, you gotta say thank you for this quest system, right? Like this was huge. And while we all chipped in, we all did stuff, right? The bulk of this load this time was all Kravik, and that's a huge, huge boon for us because it was massive, probably doubled our code base. Now back to fishing. So you know, the thing I wanted to touch on was we've been hearing a lot on how varied it can be, and the way the D&D skill check system kind of works for this downtime activity the way we'd like it doesn't really line up really for what we'd hope it would be and for what you guys are experiencing. So that's kind of the main reason for the changes. The overall deal is to make it so fishing is more accessible loot wise and earning wise to you. You are going to be more likely to earn fish off of your time spent fishing. Now, with that comes a trade off, and I want to be open about it. That's why I'm stopping to say something. It is going to require bait, right? That is going to have some effect on how that works, right? And you're going to have to buy or craft that bait, right? It will involve a new shop. We're going to have to open fisherman shops. That should make fishing equipment, some of the more mundane stuff, and licenses more prevalent to players. Another thing we're trying to solve. But you won't be able to fish anywhere, like Virgil said. And that's the other part of it too. So you are going to have to identify the fishing zones. But once you do, you're more likely to have way more fish. And it sounds like a really fun idea. So I'm excited about that one too. That's my piece.
thank you, Wack. All right. We already talked about new hordes. We've talked about some upcoming stuff. I mean, should we could gild the lily further, but I wonder if we should just jump into the next big piece. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think anything will be as
Yeah.
exciting as
I mean, let's show them what they came for. You know.
Yep.
Right?
All right. I guess I'll run this. So that means I will need to first share my screen. All right, give me a sec. All right, let me know when that's up for everybody.
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. So we've talked about the quest system a little bit already. We wanted to at least give you guys a little teaser preview as to what it's currently looking like on the player side for all of you. Not to mention, I know you guys have heard me occasionally chat about like the amount of work that goes on the back end of it. But we wanted to be able to give you guys at least a visual of what you can expect from the new quest system. So what we put together is what I'm going to demonstrate right now is actually when you make a new character, this is going to be your first quest. Like this is going to become the character intro quest to Angramore. And then as we move forward and start to expand the number of quests and the quest system functionality further, we'll probably add in other starts depending on, you know, if you're a native character and where from and certain contexts like that. But for now, this will be the starting quest for pretty much everybody. So I'll just pull up quest view, check available quests. And so we have your journey begins. So it gives you a little context here at the start of each quest when you select it to look into it further. Um, and so it'll give you a little, you know, in-lore synopsis. If there's any specialty information that you might need to know that is more OOC, that'll also be here. But once you go through, you just select that quest, and here we are. So, yep, that's the in-character description that we just saw. And then if there's any other external factors, so this gives you you know, cooldown, which like for dailies, it would say daily. Single success basically means that, you know, you complete the quest once and then you don't really get to go do it again. Um, Duration is less of a hard line number and more of a like, oh, like it's impossible to know for sure how long it's going to take any one person to do a quest just because there's other factors. But by our own estimation, how long should this quest take? Probably a few minutes, maybe 30 maximum, depending on how crazy any sort of encounters, combat encounters inside of it go. Short quests are short, medium quests are going to sit between probably like an hour, hour and a half, and then longer quests could be a lot longer than that. That's going to have a wider range. And then you have your type of quest, tutorial. So that's what we're considering it. Then the recommended tier, similar to like you're used to seeing on the quest boards, bronze. And then the party size is 1 because it's a tutorial quest. So, and then you also have an indicator here whenever you're looking at one of these quests before you accept them, who in your party is eligible for rewards for that quest. So that really comes into play when you're looking at daily timers as well as guild quests. So who's in the guild, who can get rewards for it, all that kind of stuff. It also gives you your starting channel here, which we're already for the purposes of this test in there. So I will accept the quest. And then, all right, wait, did it time out on me? Is that what happened? I was taking too long. Okay, there we go. And then we close
Need to
here,
proceed.
and
Need to
then,
proceed.
yep, you got to do quest proceed. That's why. Quest proceed. All right. And so you have here, you drift bodiless across a sea of stars. Beneath you, shimmering constellations ripple like water. Ahead, a figure approaches, a silhouette carved from twilight, familiar and unknowable. Their voice resonates not in your ears, but in your chest, as though it's always been a part of you. What is it you seek in Angramore? So we're laying in some mysticism. So we're seeing here, got a little description, you've got visuals, and then you even have an icon here indicating what type of section in the quest that you're in. So this is the symbol for a choice, a multiple choice option. So right here, this character is asking you a question and you have a few different answers that you can give. And each answer, generally speaking, for the most part, as you see choices like this, each answer will give you access to, it'll alter the quest down the line or give you access to different options in other stages. So since I'm playing as Kudark, what brings me to Angramore? Purpose is basically the best answer for him, I think. And then you get a little continuance text based off of your choice if there's any sort of information or response needed there. And then, like I said, this is a tutorial quest, so this actually goes over some of the basic RP rules. So the next stage is this is generally for newer players. You can read through, this is all stuff that you see in the RP section of the rules, but it's there right when you play, so that way you have an understanding of what to do next. So you can also pick to learn about how our experience system works and even link out to the tutorial videos if you want to watch those in here. Or if you want to just continue with the quest, you continue dreaming. And then you have a second question. So how will you claim what you were looking for? And since I'm Kudark, it would be might for sure. And then what are you willing to give up in order to gain what you seek? Let's say my life. All right. Now you all may not know on this end. You're seeing here, you're giving answers to these questions, and it's not going to become apparent right away how those answers change the quest down the line. But suffice it to say, like, there's going to be some checks and even some encounters, differences based off of your responses here, and even some reward differences based off of your responses here. So this is one of the ways in which we are adding and branching paths and variability within the quest system itself through your own decision making. So if you and somebody else do this quest and pick different answers, you will have a slightly different experience on the course of this quest. But even if you pick the same answers, you'll see in a second there's even a chance for a little bit of randomness even under those circumstances. But here you have some other tutorial options that you can pick through just to learn about stuff. So if you want to learn about the dashboard, if you want to learn about inventory management, you can. So you have this information readily available in your experience now. But since I already know all that, I'm just going to continue with my journey. And then now we have woken up. There we go. I was like, that's not the word. But something is happening. You hear raised voices on deck, a yell, boots pounding on wood, your fingers tighten around your pack strap. Stay where you are or go topside and see for yourself. So I'm actually fine either way. Does anybody want to pick for me? We got somebody in the chat that wants to pick if we stay below or go above. I can't look at the chat right now. So
I can. I can. Let's take a little vote. Let's take a little vote.
Stay below? All right, we're gonna stay below. We're not gonna check it out. I think it's safest to stay below deck and let the sailors handle whatever is happening. Screams, a thud overhead. Something heavy crashes down nearby and shakes the hull. A mother clutches her child. A man stumbles over a crate, pale with fear. You have mere moments to react. Now we have a check section. So that's what the little dice icon here means. This section is going to ask you to make some sort of check or save or anything like that. And it even gives you some detail here, what the role type is. So a single party member must roll one of the following options, first roll used. So, and then it also gives you a little note here about how long you can wait to complete this. So we waited a full 15 minutes. It will count that as a 0 for the roll and we'll continue on. So make sure you're not lingering too long before you roll. And then it even tells you for sure whether or not this is a sudden check. So that yes, this is a sudden check. I can't add anything to it. ahead of time, so we're just going to rock athletics. And of course, as always, Kravik or Weck, if there's anything detail-wise that you want to interject with on how some of this works, feel free to cut in. You notice a stack of heavy crates near the cabin door and attempt to push them into position as a barricade. So the option that was given to me in this scenario was to barricade the door with some crates. I successfully managed to do that. So we're going to
I'll
proceed.
interject a moment there. Oh, I'm echoing, but the second you see above there, the Kudark rolled 17, that's also to indicate for a bigger party who has rolled already, so you know who you're waiting for.
Yep. So that way, if it's a group check, if somebody's holding you up, you know exactly who it is. So you can start hassling them. And here's another little tutorial part just to get you just there for, you're about to enter combat. So if you've never used Avray for combat before, we give you a little blurb here and then give you different, run the tutorial command. There's also videos on combat in D&D, or if you're new to D&D. So we even add some little tidbits here for you to jump out to. In case you need to brush up on your skills before you get into the fight, but I am ready to fight. And then we have a section or an embed that you all are pretty familiar with for the most part, style-wise. But you have your description here for what's going down, and then also any special battlefield conditions. So if there's anything that needs to be considered because of the results of your roll, like if I had failed that athletics check, different conditions for this fight, and potentially even different enemies as well, depending on whether or not I succeed or fail. But since I succeeded, I've managed to reduce the enemy's movement to by half on their first turn, and then they are starting up bottlenecked. And you even get a map that you all can use in Owlbear, and what have you. And then, of course, you have your breakdown of the encounter text, and then your enemy distance and spacing, and then what the intended difficulty for this fight is, which is medium. And then it also says that you get 2 commoners as allies, so those are added in there as well. So you can, like you would with a normal encounter at this stage, you can copy this, add yourself in, and then run the combat. And then depending on whether or not you succeed or failed the combat, you'll hit success or fail like you would for a Horde fight. Which one do we want to see?
We have tried to stop Virgil from killing you in the tutorial and succeeded. You're welcome.
I'm sorry, what?
I said we've tried to stop you from killing them in the tutorial and succeeded.
Oh, yeah, no. I was never gonna let you guys die in this one. But you can definitely get your ass handed to you in this first quest. But it doesn't result in death.
Fail.
So, fail? Okay. Let's say Kudark went down in this fight. The Raider strikes you down.
Then he's definitely down.
Uh-oh. What happened?
I guess you died.
I think we hit a... I guess you died. I guess we hit a wall. Uh-oh. Let me start it back up.
Oh dear, it failed.
Yep.
Try proceed, maybe?
Quest. Proceed. Interesting. Okay, yeah, it kind of... Alright, I'll speed through this.
Oh, Mischief, you can't hear us.
Alright, close. Proceed. Alright, so we're going to go with the same stuff.
While he's going through this, I will also clarify that once you have done the tutorial quest, or like some other one-time quest like entry quests, you will not be able to do them again.
Oh yeah, this is only possible because we're doing this is a test version.
Mm-hmm. Seems like we failed to stop the mod team from killing us in the intro. Yeah, I guess.
The one thing I'll clarify there, just a little bit of what Vance said, you will be able to repeat this quest
This one, yeah.
because it may be beneficial for people and others, depending on the way they are. You will not receive duplicate rewards for
Yeah,
quests
you won't be able to get the rewards.
Ooh.
unless it tells you. Some will be repeatable, and you'll know if you're eligible for rewards or not.
All right. Let's just say maybe this is being weird. Let me do success just to see if it comes up different. Proceed. Yeah. See, the game knows that Kodark would win that fight. That's really what it is. But then you have your ending text here, and you can actually tell that this is a like reward ending of the quest because of this chest icon here.
And the yellow.
So what?
And the yellow embed.
Oh yeah, and then the yellow, yes, the embed color. So you have your description here. You have the quartermaster showing up and thanking you for stepping in, and then it gives you your rewards here at the bottom because it's a reward section. So you get 7 gold out of it, and then 1 food war asset as well, and then you are now in Terraris. This is your first foray into the game. So this is a very basic setup of one of these quests. Trust me, I've been making everybody go insane on the back end with some of the craziness that I've added into some of these quests later down the line. But
How many configs is this quest?
I can tell you how many sections, not configs on the background. But let me find it.
This one isn't big.
No, this one is not big at all. So let me look. This one is Your Journey Begins. This has 25 sections on the back end.
Yeah, I've seen him go up to 99.
Yes. But yeah, so this is the first phase of what you can expect. This is a functional phase. We're going to roll out. So you'll have your tutorial quests as we deem necessary, at least at this stage of things, that will be in phase 1's implementation of the quest system. The guild entry quests will also be in this format, and then we are working on getting at least 1 counter quest in each guild under this system because it just takes a while to map things out in this way and test it and yada yada yada. And so the other thing that we'll be doing beyond this first implementation, beyond just adding new quests into the system as we go along, and eventually converting everything over into this, is adding in other features into this quest system that we can talk about at a later date as we get closer to those being possible. But also, you'll start to notice that the problems at port type quests, where you're kind of just going in and you're doing chores and it's like menial labor type stuff, those aren't going away, but they are going to be different in terms of where you can necessarily access them. Like what we're doing is like we have quests which are going to be these like bigger, generally speaking, more involved things that you'll get from guilds, and then housed within this same system you will also have what we are calling jobs, which are smaller things like the problem that port quest is, or the daily chores for the Hellion Guard is, that you can actually get elsewhere too. Like those jobs you'll start to see crop up in different areas throughout the world. They won't just be tied to guilds, which is also will eventually become true for quests. There will be some Radiant quests that you can pop up as well that are like more side quests and things like that. But the jobs themselves are meant to be very short activities that you can do. Do a couple of checks and then get some minimal gold. Whereas like true quests will be a little bit more involved, have more variability in them, generally speaking, and will almost in every case produce more in the way of rewards than a job would. So,
I think that's all the purpose that the stream serves, other than duplicating my voice.
What?
It's been duplicating my voice when I speak.
Oh, really? My bad.
Mhm.
It always duplicates your voice. I don't know.
No,
why it
everyone's
doesn't.
voice. It's
No,
the
it
Discord audio.
duplicates everyone but yours.
Yes, everything you hear from Discord, we hear from your Discord.
Yeah, I don't know why that's always true on my computer and not anybody else's, but
It
fine.
is. We just stream the screen.
Yeah. Anyway, so unless there's any other details that we want to show off or talk about, I think we can enter into the Q&A section of this, unless there's something I'm missing.
I don't think so.
All right then. Q&A time. Anybody have questions, concerns, ideas?
Before it's asked, no, we will not let him kill you in the intro. We promise. If you have any questions, so if anyone's got some before me, they should go.
I mean, just start sending them in. We'll get them.
Mm-hmm. Y'all can rapid fire. We'll just go in list form.
I mean, I can jump on that one. Not necessarily a plan to address as is working as intended. There, so like things are only available in certain places. We have eased some of those restrictions to allow additional availability here, as we're under the warfront and it's the only location currently accessible. But the intent is that there will be varying locations for things, but we also do want things to be accessible. So, um, outside of a specific item that may be causing a type of pain point or ensuring it exists in the server, might be more of a questions thing than this forum. Um, we could look into that a little bit more. However, I can tell you we have reviewed the loot tables and they all are where we expect them to be.
I think that's specific for the whale maybe as well, but the whale recipe, I think Zane got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the specific components on that one. I do know that, we're constantly trying to open more zones and regions, which could be a part of the limitation in this exact moment in time. The mines themselves still need to be opened, although we have some serious plans for those, as well as the other kingdoms in regards to some of the varieties. So, short answer is everything going to be readily available right away? Probably not. But the intent is that you can make everything you get, although you may have to go somewhere else to get it. And so there are some things that might be harder to find right now, or possibly impossible in this location. But we don't expect that to be a permanent situation.
Yeah, we will eventually release the places in which you can get those items. As of right now, it wouldn't make sense for some of the items to even pop up, like Moonstone, for instance. Although I think you can get Moonstone closer to the black, but I'm not sure about that. But it wouldn't make sense for some other items to pop up in Terraris.
I mean, I will leak that you can get Moonstone in the borders. The problem is the border is surrounded by a horde and a front right now. You can't get to it, but we're close to that one, right? Like, sorry, Virgil. But like, there are others that are going to be harder to find. There's no doubt about it.
the other thing to keep in mind is that there are certain activities that normally are associated. Like I can say, for instance, when you're talking about um, collecting different herbs that are components for either potions or other crafting projects. Um, Even though from a go, you would think, okay, I'm going to go out and forage. Certain of those materials, if from the foraging standpoint, you'd have to be within certain regions in order to collect. But there are other activities, even within the borders of Terraris, that have a chance to roll those items as well. The hordes being one of them. And as we move forward with things in the quest system, like down the road, we're eventually going to have dungeons. Dungeons will likely be another exception, and there will be different types of dungeons. So, like, there's going to be, if you can't forage or mine or do the normal activity to get that component, if you're willing to put in a little bit more risk, especially as things go down the line, you will have a chance to even get those items inside of the borders of Terraris. But it's just going to be tougher.
I guess that's not well known. The only game right now or system that breaks the loot table is Hordes. It's the only one that has access outside its location. So yeah, technically that could work. It's not the highest chances in the world, but yeah, doing Hordes could get you stuff outside the region. That's true.
I mean, just rapid fire. Like other people can chime in when they feel. Now that one's just more of a there. Okay, so in terms of the requests, one, that one's more of a. I don't know if it's like a. I don't know what to call it. In my head, it's a miscommunication, but just because we as the staff don't immediately readily acknowledge that a specific request or suggestion is a good one does not mean that we haven't considered it and even deliberated. In fact, we often, when there is a request or suggestion put in there, it gets added to one of our regular meetings to discuss and see if we can incorporate it. We generally don't talk too often about any particular request or suggestion purely because we don't want to we don't want to erroneously give an impression of timeline or urgency or priority based off of those. So like even if we think a suggestion is a good one or might require some tweaking or modification, one of two things is likely happening here is either we've already discussed a similar system or update to what you're requesting or suggesting, and it's just in the pipeline. So we're like, yeah, that's a good suggestion. We're already thinking along the same ways. Or sometimes I know there's been a couple recently where I'm like, I didn't actually think about that, and that's a smart one. So like add it to the list. But we just generally we have the thumbs up. If you are like one of the things that we often do is if you're really curious as to our general impression or sentiment on a suggestion, we do also use those reactions. So you'll see in almost all of them, like somebody from the staff, at least, or a number of people from the staff will respond with those emojis. So like it's not that we aren't seeing it and it's not that we don't have any plans. It's just that we tend to talk about stuff as they're going to occur, not necessarily doing a whole lot of speculation as to like what could work or what couldn't work based off of a suggestion.
Yeah, and another two instances of which
I
there
think
is.
the other thing too that sorry, Matt, but I just one real quick is requests is probably a bad name. Suggestions is probably a better name because we've got a lot of stuff that we're working on, and it's not that we don't want to implement player requests or something like that, but it's not intended to be a ticket system of where like ultimately we're going to punch this list and put everything in type of thing either. So it's a little bit of a balance on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Fan, go ahead.
Yeah, and one of the more important instances of the request stuff is sometimes we have something that lines up like what Virgil said, but it isn't like it addresses an issue that a request asks to be addressed, and their presented solution, if one is presented, has already been accounted for and is being even more expanded in chat, like by us, and so we don't want to hastily say like this is going to be implemented, or like any revelation of a not fully thought out idea. Otherwise, we run the risk of not being able to deliver, or changing our opinion too much and not giving you a clear direction of where we're going with the server. If there's any requests in particular that you're talking about, then I think that it would be more useful in this kind of format to bring them up at Q&As where we can talk about them together. Because we do recognize that a lot of people reference this. Sorry. A lot of people do reference this like idea that we don't look too much at the requests. But as Virgil said, we do like upvote and downvote and like think about some of them, and you'll often see in any of the requests that we do that. And so we do talk about them, we do look at them. Some get, pushed to the back burner. Like, for instance, I don't think any request that has ever been asked for is more important than Quest. So we're not going to develop it over Quest if it takes more resources. But there are requests that we have implemented. There are ones we have talked about. They're just later down the line because sometimes they're not as important, sometimes they are. One of the ones that I will mention that was particularly grabbing for me as someone who just never thought of this was the categorize inventory by ABCD, like alphabetically. Like, I just never thought of that, which is really rare. We noticed that immediately, which is I've never thought about it, and that's very rare in the request channel that we've never thought about it.
And that is something that we will release today as well. Trade stuff.
That is true. That is true.
That was ultimately a copy paste error. We had the code in two places, one sorted, one didn't. But that'll come out today.
But yeah, we will have to communicate those things. But I think that's the main gist of it. We want to be more clear about updates that were part of requests. Yeah.
And just one last thing on your comment here, Zane, before I jump to Snow Rats. I'll talk to DJ. Maybe we can work out on the moderation side some way to better acknowledge those more readily. But we certainly don't want the intention or impression to be that they haven't been. I've read every single one of those. I'm sure we've discussed every single one of those. So we can work on the tactile feedback part of it.
Yeah.
Jumping on to the next one. Yeah, we actually did specifically choose party and the individual, or down to the character level, the building pieces of the party for challenge rating and difficulty over area CR. Not because either one was easier to implement. In fact, both are pretty difficult in this Discord setting. It's one of the big hurdles that we've had to jump across. But the vision point that we had as a group that we were hoping to instill is, while there are things accessible in different places, we didn't want places to stale or become irrelevant to certain levels of players for certain things. So making the difficulty adjust to who you are, where you are, is a way for us to keep a little more fluidity in the content and keeping places relevant. At least that's the primary intent. There's other stuff that goes along with it, of course, but that was the rationale around our decision. If that doesn't address your question, feel free to chime in there.
And I'll
You
jump
can
in.
try to
I'll add
touch
in.
on it.
I'll add to that we have, as we're discussing, making other such updates, we have talked about somewhat similar to how hordes are set up, to where like there's like a minimum threshold inside of a horde. It's balanced with a minimum threshold in mind. Also, potentially doing that on a grander scale with certain regions of like, hey, this region is going to be scaled this way and above. So there will potentially be more of like features that are kind of like that, like what you're talking about, the MMO type I think so, but being able to adjust the content to the party even within those parameters was always something we wanted to be able to do to just make sure that there was ample fluidity and you weren't necessarily running into a whole lot of issues where like Wax said earlier, things are starting to get stale because you're too high level.
Yeah, so what I wanted to add is, yeah, party was the main idea, but as Fertile mentioned, it's scalable because we do have a bit of the CR thing at the moment because Terraris, for example, is the starting area. So what you do notice, for example, if you're on the roads alone, then you won't roll higher than medium encounters, and that's kind of the scaling that could be linked to the CR scaling outside of party, because other regions like maybe Lunaris, maybe we increase that cap if you're on a road alone, that you can still roll a higher difficulty than you would in Terraris. So that is kind of how we combine the two. So it's not traditionally a static CR monster area, but it gives a bit more of dynamic parts.
I think we did skip over one on Zane's.
Yeah, it was the announcement
where
thing,
he
but
was
I think
talking
it was
about the
related.
announcement channel. Yeah.
It was related to the
So I'm
request
just
being in
trying
the
to read back.
changelog, I think.
Oh yeah, I actually meant to touch on that. So yeah, we do our very best to communicate all changes in one of the announcement change logs. They actually do all appear at some point. It could take longer for one to get posted than another. That said, we do hope to have a more detailed change log published with changes, but the tracking system and things used to better implement that are all behind Quest. So we've got some tools in the work for those things, but we don't have them available quite yet.
Gotcha. And starting to think, was Zane a journalism major at some point? With this next question,
No, he's just.
I'm just saying, like this is actually like nobody's ever really asked this, and this is like really well thought out.
I'm searching on Discord with tags like 5e West Merchant. Actually, that's funny. We actually have talked about the tags on Discord recently. not extensively, but recently. I thought most members and recently.
So I
well,
can start to answer this question.
I
but if you
also
wanna
think I
take it,
have.
man.
Yeah, I also think I haven't answered that. The main answer is because this is a more impersonal server. We automate things. We don't have direct DM intervention. While we have an interactive community, it's not that the game is ran by a DM. One of the best examples of this, and DJ can attest to it, is Beria, who has a million DMs that do interact with their players, but it's almost impossible to keep a consistent world. It's impossible to keep consistent rulings. It's impossible to keep any type of consistency among play, at least at that large of a scale. That's why we addressed that issue early on in our development, where we were like, if everything is automated, then it is way easier to keep that amount of consistency. And obviously, we will sprinkle in DM quests. That was the whole idea with them, where you know that going in, it is not going to be the same as the automated system. And obviously, once the system is up and running, once it's going perfectly and running like a smooth machine, then there will be a lot more DM intervention quests. Me and Virgil, I'm sure I will be running them, but I'm sure Virgil will be free to write them then. He hasn't been as of recent. But if you have a different answer, Virgil.
Well, I was going to speak more directly to the final part of the question. What are the plans to attract new players and keep them engaged over time? So, with that part of the question, interestingly enough, beyond regular bumping, which is a very passive, easy thing for like me to do just off of my phone, the truth of the matter is we haven't been doing a whole lot to try and advertise this place, and the not that we don't want people to come here and play it, but like we have always internally had like a minimum viable product line for this place of just like, hey, this is where we want the place to be and the core features that we want it to have before we really start to push it, because we want to make sure that especially when we start to push aggressively to bring in new players, that we make a good first impression and that we actually have the systems in place and the activities in place and all of that sort of stuff to be able to sustain that level of player base and influx and increase. So in terms of attracting new players, we have a couple of other servers that I know I've been keeping abreast on that we can potentially reach out to partner with once we get to that stage to try and attract new players. For some of you that don't know, because you're newer and haven't heard it yet.
Oh my god.
I
was gonna say it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I am a marketer by trade, so
Everyone clap.
there are plans to do a.
Is the recording still on?
Yes,
The
it
recording
is.
still on? No? Okay.
No, it is.
Just wanted to make sure we got the marketing line.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So there will be a much bigger push from even beyond Discord and Discord spaces in general to start to attract more people, other eyes to this place. But we wanted to make sure, and the quest system is actually a big part of that. We wanted to make sure that what we had was as far as we saw, a fully functional phase 1 of this place before we really started to push hard on that. And then people obviously get tired, they get bored. Like, this stuff has taken longer than I think any of us had really anticipated at the start, because we're a smaller team and we're life happens and we're only doing this in our free time. So like, we didn't want to risk bringing in, like, doing this huge push to bring in a bunch of people and then not have the ability to sustain it. So like, once we get to that phase 1 of Engramore, you'll start to see a much more aggressive push in terms of bringing in players, and then in terms of maintaining them, that scenario will be like, as you can see, we're trying to produce more content. We're trying to make sure that content is more varied with this new implementation of the quests. Like, no one run, like even on your dailies, no 2 runs of a daily are gonna have a pretty good high chance of being identical. So you'll have some more replayability even within the full first implementation of quests, but we're going to keep building on that. And at the same time, we're going to start pushing to bring in more staff, especially on both mine and Vance side of things, for sure, to make sure that you have more DM engagement from the staff. And we can run more of these DM quests more regularly, along with all of these other features and functionality.
And do keep in mind too that the other way that we have to look at this is that right now it seems that a bit stagnant because we're building up a reservoir of quests that are going to be implemented at the start of quest update. But when quest is up, things will be actively added, actively changed. If there's a glitch here or there, they will be actively fixed. At the end of the day, this place is, and here's the other thing we have to say every Q&A, this place is in beta, so we are going to find glitches in the system, and by glitches I mean on the building part of it, not necessarily the framework, and so when we make the quest, when we make quest as a system available to you all, we will pump out things whenever we get the time. But it should be a lot more active than you've seen now. Like, for instance, with the counter quests, is that a lot of them are currently completed, and the reason that we're not updating them right now in the current system is because we're writing them in the next system.
I think the only thing that I'd like to chime in on this piece is a little bit of what's already been said. Not everybody's super comfortable playing under development and beta, and unfortunately, it has taken longer than any of us had hoped. Like, we spend a ton of time on this, and it's still taking longer than any of us would have hoped. So we've got a lot of that going on, and really what we don't want to do is bring in a whole bunch of people to sit and hurry up and wait. Now, that said, right now, our best channel is really all of you and word of mouth. If you know other people that like to test and play this game, have them come play. Tell them to check it out, right? We'll do our best to keep them here and have stuff for them to test out. But we certainly don't want to undertake any type of significant join effort until we feel we're ready to support that, and it's not just gonna send people running because it doesn't work, you know.
Also, Snow Rat, don't be fucking doing quests while I'm in here. I'm working. I can't answer your ping.
Multitasking.
Also, there's only like one moderator, so if we start bringing in hundreds of people, I will be up 24/7 looking at.
Yeah.
You're already
Yeah,
up 24/7
somebody help
doing
me.
that.
Please, somebody help.
Me and DJ have the same curse, bro.
Since January 1st, a new system has been in place to track player experience with ranks that bring perks like extra character slots, access to commissions, and character resets. But so far, ranks haven't been applied retroactively, and there isn't a way for players to check their current rank other than asking a mod. Is there any way to update the features being worked on? Blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm gonna let either Whack or Kravik handle that one, since that's
Is
the
that
back
just the
end thing.
player level? Right?
Yeah, the
It's-
player level.
Player experience.
Yeah, I can look at that. I can add that. Maybe I'll add that tomorrow.
All right,
I mean,
so
that's one of those things. I mean, in full transparency, that the update that included player experience, it was an unintended included change in a bigger update. It wasn't supposed to get sucked in the draw, but it did. And so, like, we're trying to fix it, but nothing can come before Quest. This is a massive, massive project. So yeah, it's absolutely on our list. We are going to implement it.
yeah, after Quest is either the answer, or if Kravik gets to it tomorrow, I guess.
While we're working on it. Speaking of after quests, at the just so you all have an indication, keeping in mind that obviously we're all volunteering our time and anything can happen IRL that can upset this timeline. But from where things are looking right now, I project that by the end of October, phase 1 of Quest should be in a, like, roughly around that time, phase 1 of Quest should be in a good spot and potentially even out. So those tutorial quests that I mentioned, the guild entry quests, and then one counter quest in each guild will likely be out and in this format for you all to test and play with and experience by end of October. Is the goal. If anything, if as we get to the start of October, if things aren't looking that way, you will get another notice just to keep you guys abreast as to how things are moving. But from what I can tell in terms of the speed at which I can make some of these quests and write them, and then the speed at which we can test them, and how many we have left to do, that's what I'm projecting. Feature of the old system was being able to see the quest involved combat, helpful for passive players. Actually, yes. So to your question about whether or not a quest will include combat, that actually is in the quest read up, the somewhere the quest details, where we can actually mark it as it's a check only situation. It's balanced in that, like, you're going to have a fairly even amount of doing checks and rolls versus doing combat, or if it's combat heavy. So we have those 3 different descriptors at the start of each quest that you'll be able to see as well. That wasn't in the tutorial quest. I don't think I saw it. If it was in there, I just missed it. I don't think it was in there because that one's kind of mandatory. So, like, it kind of doesn't matter if there's combat in it. You just got to do it. But yeah, there will be an indicator as to whether or not, at least vaguely, it's not going to tell you exactly. Otherwise, just be purely checks. So sometimes that will happen, but generally speaking, you'll have some indication as to whether or not a quest is more check heavy or more combat heavy, or a mix between the two. So this is the thing that you all are used to thinking about because of the limitations. Okay, so I'm moving on to the next question. Similar-ish question. We will be able to see what abilities. Will we be able to see what ability scores might be used? Because if a charisma character accidentally starts an int-based quest, that would feel really bad. So one of the things that will be shifting, and I know that this is a byproduct of you all being used to how we've set things up and the limitations that we've had with quests up till this point. Right now, because quests have to be read from start to finish, there's no other way for you all to be able to run them on your own without reading everything and being able to do it step by step on your own. And then you have the character limitations of the embeds themselves to contend with. The quests have been naturally more limited and simple, and so in order to work within that, yeah, the guild quests have largely been themed in terms of the types of checks that are in a quest. This will be less of a thing overall, in that the guilds themselves will focus on, like, it'll be more thematic in terms of like their quests. So the Brotherhood will lean into magical exploration and all that other stuff with their quests, but it'll be more theme and goal like themed around that goal rather than themed around specific quote unquote classes as much. But with that, that does mean that there are multiple branching ways to tackle the problem. Like, for instance, one of the things that we're able to accommodate and compensate for a lot more are character choices like racial or background choices, even being able to account more for different spells and how they might affect different scenarios inside of a quest. So you will have a lot more options in how to navigate a quest. So the odds of you, not to say that you will always have an option for handling something. You might just not be equipped for a certain scenario regardless, but the odds of you not having a pathway to succeed or find a means of success that is within, if you're fitting that theme. So if you're, going to the Brotherhood, like I said as the example, and you're, a caster class, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have an option available to you, both either through checks or through choices or through spells or something like that throughout the quest. This is why even though the tutorial quest, as you saw, very simple, it's 25 sections on the back end. This is why some of the other quests that I've built in this system thus far are in the 90s. It's to account for all of those different options and possibilities to deal with scenarios. So it's going to be a lot more fluid, a lot more varied. So hopefully you won't run into that problem too much, but at the same time, sometimes you're just not equipped for a situation. So unfortunately, the thing that you will have to give up is knowing completely ahead of time whether or not you can, you're going to be effective at a thing.
Yeah, I will add to that like at the end of the day, we do want this to be a roleplay based system, and while you can usually approximate what kind of quest you're going to be on via the synopsis and the task at hand, you could go down a route which isn't entirely unpredictable. If you go down into the if the two options are stay on land or go in the lake, you could drown. It's a very obvious implication. Some might be a little bit more mysterious, but will be less likely to lead to your absolute death because of something you completely didn't know about. So yeah, we don't want to just blindside you with a thing that you're completely not prepared for that's very, very niche. Nor do we want to skew the balance of any given like group of quests by making them like mostly dex or mostly con or mostly wisdom. Nothing like that. And again, failing a thing in this in this system, failing something doesn't mean absolute failure. Like the current quest system where you fail and it's probably either you get one more chance or you failed already. If you fail any given thing that you didn't want to do or weren't good at, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't win.
Yeah. Now to your question, Snow Rat, yes, there's already stuff inside of the quests that allow you to out of the quest mid-quest if you run into certain stuff. Now, granted, sometimes you're not going to have the option to do that before you're in the thick of it, but fleeing is still like unless the quest says otherwise for the case of like an encounter, fleeing is always on the table, and it will usually give you instructions on like what to press if you flee the combat, and then if you flee, usually that counts as you backing out of the quest. In
Maybe
most
just
cases,
give up the
but
quest,
there are
bro.
going to be options. Yeah.
Yeah, like if it tells you to go to the blacksmith and you're like, you know what, I don't want this quest, you can just unaccept it.
So okay, so the quests are prepared to take into account things that could make you succeed, like Flash of Genius. So here's the one thing that I will say, and will be pretty upfront when the quest system is first implemented. Things that are reactions that are like lucky or whatever, because we don't have the functionality of like essentially allowing you to interject with an override. Like let's say it asks you for a roll and you roll athletics like I did in the example, and then it's like, oh, I actually have a reaction ability to where if I failed or like before the result is known type deal, I actually can add this modifier to it. It will not know. The bot does not know that you have that reaction ability, nor does it have currently the ability to account for you sort of interrupting that process to tell it that you have a reaction ability. So my suggestion would be that if a reaction ability of that sort can be at play, I mean, unless anybody else has in the staff has a different suggestion, my suggestion would be put it always on, and then oh, well, actually no, because they don't know whether or not they would have succeeded without it. Okay, so that's not going to work either. We will have to noodle on that when it comes to reaction abilities specifically. In terms of abilities that you can add ahead of time that aren't reaction abilities,
They'll be included in the embed, so unless it says
if
sudden,
it's
you're
not
good to go.
if it doesn't say sudden, then you can add those in. But yeah, we're still trying to work out the kinks on the reaction abilities for the quests.
There's one thing I just thought about in the quest system itself. Normally, when you get to the, when you do a specific check and you do the roll, and then you get to the next part and it says, "Oh, you have performed this," or "You failed this," and then you get the proceed button.
Mm-hmm.
What if we put a back button there, allowing them to go back a step and do a reaction, perhaps?
Well, since the embeds delete themselves, there's no way of knowing whether or not you went back other than looking in the actual like delete history. So like I guess you could do that as like a sloppy fix. I would prefer for something more permanent. For instance, only looking for the embeds that roll like your abilities, and then us having a list of abilities like what DMN is talking about, like guidance or not guidance, but things after the fact, like lucky. If we have a list for those and we can search for those embeds, then you can roll them after the fact, and perhaps we could add in some kind of buffer embed where it can sense that and make you succeed. I wouldn't know. This is more Kravik's idea, but I can see the logic in that. Or not his idea, but this is more his area.
No, I meant specifically, like part of the tutorial where Kudark did his athletics check, and then it got to the next part. It deleted the old embed, opened up a new embed, and it said, "You managed to barricade the doors," and it said, "Proceed or back." Sorry, no, I think it just said proceed. What if we could? I'm not much of a coder, so I don't know the answer to this. But what if we could create a back button on that could basically take you back to the previous embed and basically reload it, allowing them to essentially do a reaction?
Yeah, we'll have to look at how we exactly do that then, because we have to display what the DC was, I guess, because that's the only way we allow the players to know if they could use a reaction that would benefit them.
Right.
Yeah, as I said,
And
like I can only really come up with the one solution where there's like a buffer embed that allows you to use an after the effect roll where it's like, do you have something that would change this outcome? Or like it's like you failed. Do you have something that would change this outcome? Then something like that might work.
We might need to do a little bit more digging on this particular subject, because this might be a byproduct of how Avre's always worked, and this is a thing that we might not actually need to fix if I'm being a stickler. because a lot of, not all, like I said, we'd have to look at it, but if my memory serves, a lot of these reaction abilities say that you do them before, like you do them after the roll is made, but before the result is known. And so in that case, you would be gambling because you don't know, even in the context at a table, whether or not the roll succeeded or failed. So before you tack it on. So if that's, I got to look at specific ones because I know there are rare ones that allow you to know whether or not you succeeded or failed before you use them. But in most cases, that wouldn't be the case. So I'm not really sure how we want to address that. It's a tricky one.
We do promise to address it though. It's clear.
Yes, that is definitely something we're planning on addressing. New mission system, blah, 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 designed for high level players. I mean, I don't know exactly what you mean like by that, Zane, about the
He's
stuff.
saying that team
think-
high level players are less likely because there's less high level players to be teamed. Is there any way to address that? Like, for instance, more solo level content.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, there's going to be solo content, like because yes, there will be solo content for higher level players in terms of quests, as far as quests are concerned. Yeah.
Or at least less
So,
size
and then
groups based
also-
on that.
Sure. Yeah, quests are likely, once we get everything underway, generally speaking, I would say the majority of quests are going to be balanced for a maximum of a party of 4, mainly because we have other content like hordes and dungeons and whatnot that will be coming out that are better suited for a party of 6. But yeah, yes, with this new implementation, we will definitely have more content for solo play because we also don't have to create a huge long quest board for you to scroll through endlessly to try and find the quests. So as we move along, we can potentially add more at one time in any given quest board if we really wanted to. Not to mention that, like I said, the later implementations of it, we plan on even having random quests that show up, like, oh, you're this level and this rank in a guild. Bobbit's like, hey, I have, like, you walk in a Bobbit shop, like, it could, like, where we want to go with this eventually is, like, you could walk in a Bobbit shop, and because you're high level, well known, and you're ranking member of blah 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 blah, like, Bobbit could be like, actually, while you're in here, adventurer, like, I could actually use your help with somebody with your level of skill, and like that could be a randomly, queued up quest that doesn't always happen, but will happen in certain conditions. And some of those could be level based, some of those could be rank and guild based, some of those could be achievement based, like Kravik was mentioning earlier. So there will also be plans. There's also plans for stuff like that. So I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to stick to my guns and say that they're like, unless the rest of the staff wants to overrule me, I'm not going to give any indication as to when the Thieves Guild will be released.
I know exactly what he's gonna say about not telling you when the Thieves Guild is gonna be released, and I don't necessarily agree. So we're gonna have to talk about that.
Now, to your other part of the question, will the Thieves Guild be the last guild in Terraris? It depends on what you mean by guild. So, guild, as we're talking about them now, probably. But that's not to say that there won't be other factions and groups that have similar things, like their own quests and systems. Like, guild might become a catch-all term, but there will be other factions within the world that emerge over time as well. So, like, in terms of a place where you can...
Oh, I was just going to say, for instance, there's been embeds in the Terraris, the Terraris board where it's designed to look like a guard quest. So maybe a guard could give you, or guards could give you quests. Would they have their own channels like how we do them now? Perhaps not. We haven't any plans for any of them, really, because we did the main archetypes. But we're not against the idea, depending on what happens in the server and with lore, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, a lot of those other factions will be more lore based than like traditional, like you have a thief's guild, you have a mage's guild. Like it'll be more specific to the world. So those will definitely start to emerge more as we get through the liberation arc for the other kingdoms, because they will naturally have their own fractured factions that have been surviving during this situation.
Like, does it make
So
sense to have a demon and devil hunting guild in Linares? Yes, it does.
yes. The short answer to your skill monkey question is yes. The new implementation of quests is going to add a lot more variability across the board in terms of activities, and like skill monkeys will still have their advantages for sure, when it comes to just being able to circumnavigate certain danger through quests. Like that will always be a thing they can do, but in terms of balancing out the rewards and outcomes and all of that, in terms of how much effort it takes and even risk, yeah, the plan is going to be down the line, definitely making sure as much as we are capable, because there's only so much we can balance out given how varied this game and any build could possibly be within it. What kind of rewards you're getting for your investment in the character and risk and all of that. But yeah, with the changes in quests, like we are not copying and pasting these quests as they currently are. Like a lot of them are like they're getting overhauled. So that balance will hopefully be more achieved in this next implementation.
And to answer Snorat's question real quick, because just like it's a really quick one, mines will be a thing later on down the line, like a lot of. So it'll be easier to get components.
Yes, mines. Yes.
You won't just be mining like in the cradle. But as for BPT's thing,
yeah.
Are there any plans for allied guilds? Because so far the Conservancy and the Guard are allied. Doesn't seem to be any mechanical input. Yeah, there will be. It's just not like a major thing right now, and it would be a major draw of resources to map out who's allied with who, what benefits they get without it being overpowered. It's a massive balance thing that we'd have to talk about, and it would delay progress pretty substantially.
But we have had more than one conversation, even within the past, I'd want to say like 6 months, in regards to that. So
Yeah, I think
it's
one
not
idea
something
we
that
had
we
was
aren't
like,
planning on doing anything with.
yeah, I think one idea we had is like maybe they get to do those quests or something like that. Again, it's just something we've talked about. It's not something we have any concrete like thing with, but we have thought about it. It's just
We got to see how the gist of it is we got to see how far we can push our new toy with the quest system before we can fully put anything concrete down in terms of like how we want guilds to reshape, or in things like alliances and rivalries. So
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, no, in terms of crafting components, right now the current stance is that yeah, we a shop of some sort is seen as undermining the obtaining process of the components, but also like we wanted the crafting and the component system to encourage interplayer trade and skill specialization. Now, the first implementation of the trade limits somewhat impeded that goal, which is why we're updating it. So
Yeah.
Hopefully that will be less of a concern. We wanted the crafting and component aspect to be more of a player generated economy rather than something that is dictated through shops.
Yeah, and as to the future updates, like what's on the way, as Virgil said, a lot of that depends on like how many additions Gravik can add to the quest system. I think we've already bought in for a few, but also like what some like implementations of the quest system we haven't thought about. Because I know that we have had a few ideas while using it that we didn't think about before, and some that we did. But in terms of like future planning and like big implementations that we're thinking of, as I said, we talked about mines. Dungeons are going to be a thing with the increasingly more prominence in the West. There might be more demon and devil type things. That might actually interlink with your next question for seasonal events. We haven't really thought about any currently, but as the release is going to be in October or around then, it leaves us plenty of time to write about one or think about one.
Yeah. Yeah. More and better is really the best answer I can give you. There's other things on the list that we've talked about in terms of like new things. Like we definitely want to at some point tackle the whole renting and in-room situation, getting that part
Yes.
automated, which will then lead to automations in sort of in the housing system and hireling system. Like there's things on the list. It's just a matter of figuring out like once we get quests worked out, because this was such a big push, like we need to kind of once we're in a decent spot with quests, we kind of need to sit down as a team and figure out what the next priority order is beyond things like, you know, updates to the XP and potential economy and loot rolls and
I don't think that
all this
there is
other
a
stuff. So there will be a lot
single
of
conversation I've hated more than the in-room ideas and how to implement the automation. I don't think there's a single conversation I've hated more than that. And every time we've had it, I've laughed. Like, on God, every other system that we've ever implemented for that was easier for me. I do not like... I can't wrap my head around how to balance that. So fair play to the rest
and
of
then
them.
in terms of the question for the next seasonal event, that is why I'm trying to shoot for the timeline of end of October, because if we can get phase 1 of the quest system out by end of October, I will feel more comfortable taking some time on the writing side of the team to put together a seasonal winter event. The intent is to have a end of year event like we normally do. It's just a question of whether or not we can, you know, put that together and get that rolling before phase 1 of Quest is out, because that definitely takes priority.
Yeah, we have
But
to
that
give
is the
Kravik.
intention.
We have to give Kravik Klotna after this. But as for your other question, B3T, I saw you actually ask that in questions the other day about the state of, well, not the state of weeklies, but whether or not like they're available. Honestly, it's more Virgil's standpoint at that point of what he needs to write. So I'll let him take it there. There's just a lot of other quests to update
Yep.
even after October.
Yeah, so I will be, yes, I mean, I will be continually working on quests for some time, probably until I'm in the ground after phase 1 is implemented. But in terms of weeklies is on my docket for phase 2. So like as once we get past the first implementation of the new quest system, and we start to fill out more of the rest of the quest boards. The intention with weeklies is really to be, so I'll put it this way. I think about this in terms of time, how much time it actually takes you to do it, right? Weeklies are generally going to be more similar. If you've done one of the Horde runs, it's going to be similar in terms of time investment to a Horde run, where you're going to have to travel. You're going to have to do a lengthy, involved thing. And you know, it's going to take the better part of a session, if not a full session, to like get through one of the weeklies, and that's at minimum. Like we've also discussed potentially having breakpoints inside of weekly quests. It's just a matter of whether or not we can get it to do that. But breakpoints inside of a weekly quest where you can kind of pause and go like, all right, I got this far. I'm going to pick this up later. And it's a longer, more involved quest in that regard as well. So same thing in terms of intentions with like dungeons. Dungeons are going to require something similar in terms of like, hey, you guys can kind of stop in the middle of a dungeon and you have a little like area that you're trying to rest in. So that way your party can regroup later, because we all understand that you all have real lives and at some point you're going to have to stop playing the game.
Yeah,
So,
it's more about the breakpoint in the weeklies. They're going to be like, it's going to be like more casual, not casual, but it's going to be more like a table game where, like, you know, you can't have the whole campaign in one night, so you will have breakpoints.
yeah. So we're working on that when it comes to weeklies, and even a necessary element for dungeons. So weeklies will definitely have to be at the very least in the next phase of implementation for quests, not in this first phase, but it's not something that we have forgotten. It is still very much a thing.
It's
that we're
something that
trying
Virgil
to
talks about
get
very often.
out the door. Yes, I do.
And I will say, with 10 minutes left in the hour, that we have 10 more minutes left of questions, I think. If you have more questions, or
I mean, it's been 2 hours instead of.
It's been 2 hours.
Yes, it's been 2.
I thought
my
it's
friend.
been 1, bro.
Nah.
Okay, well,
But honestly, on that note, I think unless there are any other pressing questions, thanks again, as always, for everybody showing up. Oh no, the journalist is typing. Let's see.
no, the marketer is talking about the journalist.
You never want that. Okay, cool.
I mean, if you have
So
more,
yeah,
put in questions.
as always, thank you for taking the time to, be with us today and taking a look at what we have to show you. Hopefully y'all are excited about what is to come. But yeah, and of course, as always, thank you for playing the game. Thank you for bearing with us. As we say all the time, we're a small team who are trying to do something big while volunteering our free time to do so. So like we really appreciate your patience. We understand that sometimes it can be tiresome to hear like, oh, this is coming, or oh, we're gonna work on that, and then like months go by. But that is the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So we really do appreciate you still sticking with us and you still having faith in us and being patient. So
yeah. And one thing I will add to that
always.
last thing that Virgil said is we do talk about telling you that it's coming. We definitely talk about that very cyclically, and how we don't like telling you this is coming.
But yeah, so that's everything I got to say. So
one thing I will say to
I-
BT3 is with the resources thing that you asked about earlier that I responded to in text. I won't send out an announcement necessarily because I think that we would need to have a discussion for that, but I will definitely post how many you got in the quest submissions, and I do it every time that I tally them. So I don't know if you saw the last one, but I do that.
yeah, seriously. I know DJ's kind of posting it as a joke, but if any of you want to help him out on the mod side, he will definitely need it. Coming up soon, so by all means. And I don't know if
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I've mentioned that the update is done now,
The update's pushed.
and you can see the player level as well now in the dashboard. So
Oh yeah, you can see player level now. There you go.
He's like, oh, I just did that in 5 minutes. All right, guys, I'm out.
Whenever Kravik does
They
anything,
were like, when
Wax
is
like,
this gonna
okay,
get
so I'm
changed?
shit.
Right now.
Yeah. Plus 20 mod points.
But yeah. So the update's out. Thank you, Kravik. Everything's live now, so you guys can go test out the new trading stuff. You guys can test out some of the stuff that we talked about that is live. So you can go check out the new hordes and the altered current sewer horde. So you now have 2 hordes you can go to depending on your level. Be prepared for some craziness if you decide to go to the new horde, because
So there's a load of new
it is one
maps
of the
for the
times where
horde.
Virgil. Yes, and it is one of those times where the rest of the team will be okay with letting Virgil kill you. So just go into that with eyes open. So,
I kind of don't have a choice.
um, but yeah. So thank you so much, and happy hunting. Good luck out there.
Good luck, everyone.
goodbye.